All right, calling to order the study session and closed session of the Bloomfield Hills School Board. Today is Monday, March 17th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Trustee Noble, can you please take attendance?
Everyone here except for Trustee Jason.
All righty. Moving right into the study session, we can start with the board committee reports. Superintendent West, I will leave it to your discretion on which order you'd like to go in.
Let's start with finance and operations.
Sure. So there was a meeting on March 6th, attended by myself, Lindsay, Carolyn, Sammer, Jake McDermott, Keith, Candace, Superintendent West. So we went through, first thing we went through is...
Your microphone's not on.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
So the first thing we went through is going to, for the board for approval on the 17th is a device refresh for staff impacting the following groups: for elementary, middle school, staff laptops and para Chromebooks, IA staff laptops and desktop monitors, Wing Lake laptops and staff Chromebooks. So this is again part of the bond. Total cost of the refresh is $488,130, funded by the bond incentive program funds. Second thing we talked about is, again, we're going into, Keith and his team are going to be working on bargaining. So I'm going to have some closed session meetings talking about that. We talked a little bit about, and I'll let one of the members from the strategic plan give an update on that. And the other thing, and the final thing that we talked about was in terms of the monthly financial reports in response to a board member's request. We talked about, so we're going to have some narrative, and you probably saw in the board update, some narrative centered around when we get updates, just so we're all aware kind of where we stand at a point in time. Okay. And then in the April agenda, just coming up, we're going to talk about the revenue funds amendment, again, more contract negotiations. We're going to talk about the custodian RFP that's coming out, school bus purchases, and then filter first purchases and track resurfacing. So any questions on anything we talked about?
What was your last point you said about the second to last bullet point?
The second, so on the monthly financial report, so one of our colleagues sent a note just asking just a little bit more detail. So when we get it, we're making sure at a point in time we're okay for the rest of the year. So now Candace is going to be providing in our monthly updates, not just the numbers, but a narrative surrounding the numbers.
Oh, okay.
So just to say, like, right now, we're okay from a budget perspective, nothing to be concerned, as opposed to just getting numbers that we can't interpret.
Candace?
Yes, those are the notes have actually been included for the month of February on the current agenda.
Mm-hmm. So that's what you're alluding to?
Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
okay.
Yep.
All right.
Any questions on the Finance Committee update? Lindsay, Carolyn, did I miss anything?
That's really it.
Covered everything.
That's it.
All right.
We're efficient. We stormed through it in 89 minutes and 58 seconds.
Next month will be a little bit more intense. Curriculum and instruction?
So the committee met on March 4th. Our first meeting, we went through, the prior one, going through what we're going to talk about. This one, we had a chance to actually drill into a few things. In my notes, I'm trying to go back to this document. So the extended day services, we talked about what's currently being used. There's a number of different vendors and programming, whether it's Brain Spring or Sylvan Learning or Varsity Tutors. We talked through like what's being used and how many we have enrolled. I think those numbers were put in there after the fact, so I appreciate that. I think everybody has access to it, so we can kind of see how many students are enrolled in those various extended day services, whether it's the K through 5 or the high school level, kind of what's being offered and then who's in there. A lot of that is being used in those situations. For specific situations, if it's MTSS kind of related, where it's being offered in that way. So we went through those, kind of an update for what are we using and what's working. We know that, I guess a lot of this, and maybe Todd, you can follow through, but with regards to like iReady and how that will be added on in terms of like that as a potential and differences between what we have there currently and to come. We went through kind of the summer school programming. That was a bigger discussion, but kind of, if you remember, roll back when we had, funding available specifically for that and what it was used back like COVID days, which was this is an opportunity for, they were virtual for students to be in that kind of a setting. And then that's kind of changed, and now those dollars, as are many other dollars, are expiring or running out. So kind of decision is, what do we do in terms of offering summer school programming? What does that look like? And for K through 8, it comes into looking at having tuition based for this, where for 5 weeks in here, 15 sessions, it would be $350 total. And then another option in here, or not an option, another way of calculating it really is looking at how much per session per hour. So those are available in there, but the reality is, without that kind of funding the way it was set up before, I think the way that we're looking at it is it does need that kind of tuition-based dollars to support it and keep it running. And we think it is valuable. I think there is, and we talked in the committee that there is value in having sort of a more academic approach to this. This is not really kind of a daycare situation or something like that. And we're expecting, with the amount of students that will be in there, which is much less, that those instructors will have the ability to connect with those students a little bit better and really reach with them and make sure that whatever kind of assistance they might need, it's going to be much on a much closer basis, as opposed to a huge classroom of kids. You've got 10 students max. That's a lot easier to kind of reach out to those kids and make sure if they need support, they were able to offer that. So that's what we discussed in there, is looking at tuition-based for keeping that programming for K through 8. 9 to 12 is mostly the same, with the credit recovery, which is covered by grants, and advancement opportunities specifically for PE. So that really isn't changing. The changes would really be around the K through 8 level in terms of what we're offering there. And then the bond, we talked about the FF&E and what that entails, really being able to prepare for that. So in the upcoming summer months, there's going to be a lot of movement going on. I think it is similar to what happened before with getting things moved around, and there's a list in there of showing who's going to be impacted, whether it's Bloomfield West, robotics, all these different locations, when that's kind of going to transpire. But we went through, David did a good job of explaining how we're going to supplement that, how we're going to have people involved to be able to make sure that that transition is as easy as possible, that we're storing that furniture. We talked about the storage, which is another thing altogether, but there's a lot of things that have to get stored temporarily, and they have a solution for that in place to be able to take care of that. So I feel confident, and the group felt confident, they'll be able to take care of that without huge disruptions to the teachers. I know that's always a challenge, but I feel like they have a good plan for how they're going to tackle that. So those are the major areas. There are some follow-up questions inside of that agenda notes regarding some of the changes that had been done with ELA and math previously for middle school, and the timing changes, and then kind of what impacts have happened. So I won't belabor that, but it was a good question to go through that and really understand that, as well as some of the PSAT data, and start to build a narrative of kind of these changes that have happened, what has been reflected in terms of the scores since. So that was a question that had come up and been communicated. So feel free to go through that data and review. It's pretty extensive. There's a lot of information in there. Lindsay, I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted to comment on that came out of that meeting that might be helpful? Okay. Any questions, comment? Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I have a question because your extended school year program comments and the summer program comments sort of blended together. So clarification, the funding for extended year program, is that something that you were indicating that may eventually become at a cost? Because I wanted to make sure that clarification
So Yeah, so the way that ESY was done previously, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that was through really ESSER funding.
Yeah, specifically for summer school programming, I'll talk about that one first. We first had ESSER funds and 11T funds, and then we had 23G funds. So there's been like this reoccurring source, even though it's taken different shape. And then there were actually different eligibility requirements as we move to for like what students will qualify to be in summer school program. But we've been really able to leverage that to offset costs for students. And those are expiring at the end of this school year, specifically for
They're done.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah,
They have
done.
already, they expired last summer for that, and we're not anticipating anything taking place or replacing that extended year format. And so what we've been able to do is go through and look at what would be a cost associated that for tuition. So this is something that we've known has been sort of coming along ever since the ESSER funds, and then we were able to leverage the 23G funds a little bit, and those are just tapering off this year. And then for the tutoring services is a similar answer to that. We were able to use 23G funds for that. We still have some of those left, but we're not 100% sure if there's going to be a grant that will replace that. We have that literacy grant that is hanging out there, but there hasn't been a lot of details yet from MDE on whether or not we'd be able to use that for tutoring services for next year. We're supposed to learn more about that around June, which will be plenty in front of next school year to know if that will be available for us to continue with some of those tutoring services, and whether or not 23G activities could transfer over to that. So we have a couple of months before we'll know the answer to that one in terms of funding for the tutoring services.
Confused though with extended school year or ESY services for special education students with IEPs. That is a cost to the general fund of the district that has not been funded with grant funds, unlike these more traditional based summer school programs, just to provide clarity around that.
Thank you for that extra details. So with the cost of, I'm guessing that the $350, cost, are there options still for families who may not be able to afford that cost to apply for additional support? Is that still an option?
We haven't looked at that through committee. Right now, we're just putting on what a tuition base would be for that, but there isn't any grant funding that would be eligible for students with different socioeconomic status for that. So right now, that's not part of the plan. Our hope would be that as we move in and do that initial data cycle, that we'll move that into those programming options that are available during the school year and work that intervention in on that time. This was always something that originally was right after that 2021 school year. It was originally intended to make up that loss of classroom time and have kids in person. That's why one of the requirements for this, at least the first couple years, maybe all of them, is that there had to be an in-person option because it was making up for that loss of time. So our hope would be, in terms of like socioeconomic status, when it comes to multiple tier systems of support, that we will pull that into the school year and make sure that we have that available, but not necessarily during those summer months.
One of the things, Michelle, people can do, whether they realize it or not, because I'm part of the organization, BYA offers summer scholarships, and they have a hard time they have a hard time connecting families throughout the district to the scholarships. So if there are opportunities for families that want to take these courses once this funding goes away, my advice with them is to seek BYA, and BYA has a pot of money that's dedicated, they've gotten granted, dedicated to supporting these types of things.
Is there a way for us, when we do market this to families, to extend that as if you're looking for ways to support? I think for our free and reduced lunch students, I'd hate for an opportunity where I have to decide to pay my car note or send my kid to a great initiative in the summer. I just want to make sure we're providing an
Yeah,
opportunity
the-
for those families.
The difficult part is, the onus on that just should be on the family, because the organization itself can't find out who's in free and reduced
No,
lunch.
I'm saying, like, can we add that to the marketing, like, as an option? You can also, maybe if you're thinking about funding, here's a source
Yep.
that could help you, if you're looking for this as an option for your family, to apply for this grant that could pay for your summer course. It's a suggestion.
Another thing to know is that we have partnered with our food service vendor in this regard, and we have sent information to families who have opted to receive information from the district. So there's they have to agree to that, and we have shared opportunities like that with them. So recently there was a BYA, some grant funding that was made available, and they saw an increase in people who were able to access that by us sending it directly to that group. And so this would be something that we could also do potentially for that partnership. But again, it's those families who have agreed for the district to contact them for opportunities like that. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Just have a question on the numbers. So what does it mean, extended day services, Brain Spring 1, Hoot Reading 1, Michigan Dial? Is that the number of students who participated? Like, what's the number next to the bullet point? What does that mean?
Yeah, so I believe that is, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the number
Yep.
of students that are using that. So I think Laura gave us a number, I want to say like 40 students in total. Our students who,
So first through fifth skill building, 217?
Yep, most of our students have been in like the staff-led tutoring services. So anytime that says skill builders, that's sort of, well, not sort of, that's our teachers doing something after school or specifically for those tutoring services. So we've been using our teachers as well.
So what's the 217 represent, the amount of students?
217 students.
Yeah, those are participation numbers.
So 217, and then tutors within, let's just say, I don't know if that's just the high school, so varsity tutors for additional students 6 to 12. So are we saying that between?
Those were elementary students. So there's 4 elementary students utilizing varsity tutors, and because varsity tutors is an open source 6 to 12, I don't think we have numbers on that because anybody can access it.
so this is different. I know we've talked about like varsity tutors in the past for like the high school, or this is specifically for extended day services for those students that have an IEP that, man, here they need these additional resources, and then this is how many students are utilizing that specific resource at that level.
So this is not how many, we don't have the data. No, I mean, this is good data on that. We don't have the data on when we voted, what was it, last year on the tutoring, like how many, I'm just curious how many students are using that tutoring program. And I think it was varsity tutors.
I'll ask Sarah if we can find out those numbers.
She said it before. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Did she
Yeah,
say that?
it's
Okay.
there. We know.
These numbers reflect more of the elementary level, but
Okay.
I'll find out if
Yeah.
we can figure out specifically at the secondary level. And maybe it was a difference between, I'm not sure how they pull that data from varsity tutors. So we'll look into it, and we'll drop it into a board update when we have it.
The extended day is the tutoring.
Mhm.
So that is extended day. That is not exclusive to our special education with IEPs. So
But
extended day.
I
And then
guess-
below, there is ESY, an ESY extended school year. In the traditional sense, ESY is specific to special education, not
Maybe-
to be
yeah.
confused with summer school. You are speaking to the tutoring contract approved last year, which
Correct.
is the extended day services that we are offering to our students, that is grant funded.
So it's, I don't know what the difference between 4 and 6 to 12. I guess my question in general, without going through what's here, is how many students are utilizing those services that we approved last year based on the grant funding? If you don't know it, that's fine. You can just send a follow-up update on that.
One of us can work with
Yeah, that's
Sarah
fine.
Fairman to
Yeah.
get those numbers.
That's-
It looks
that's
like
for something else.
they're partially here, but I don't know
Yeah.
the completeness of the documentation.
quick
Yeah.
question about the popularity of summer school in our district and whether it's highly utilized or if it's not. But I'm sure you didn't go over that because it didn't look like it was in the notes. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know if we talked about enrollment prior because, I mean, I'm sure we can get those numbers. I think this was more of, if we want to continue this, this was kind of the crux of the discussion was, if we want to do this, there's no money for it anymore, right? And so that's kind of the point at which we started looking at it. Mr. Phelps talked about, I say Mr. Phelps as he's still the president, I keep doing that. It discussed kind of how they looked at other school districts and schools and what their offerings are specifically for this, because everybody's kind of in the same boat, and how much are they charging, and for what it's worth, I mean, our rate is not kind of what we're basing on. It's like enough to do it and not really generating like income from it necessarily. This is like what it requires to make this happen is precisely what we're really charging for this. And what are we trying to offer? We're trying to offer a setting where we've got, just enough kids with an instructor who can get that kind of interaction. It's not really like a daycare or a service where, you're dropping off kids. Hopefully, like that's not how we're perceiving it. It's more of, this is an opportunity to have these students engage in a way that's going to help them in that summer school setting. Previous enrollment, I don't know, Todd.
Yeah, I don't have those numbers in
Sure.
front of me, but I can certainly tell you that we did take a look at other tuition programs, and this is very competitive compared to
Yeah.
those. We expect to lose a little bit. We certainly did not structure it to break exactly even, or definitely not structured it to make a profit off of it. But in Bloomfield Hills, we have so many summer activities to do, so it's going to have to compete with more of the recreational piece of that. We suspect that the enrollment will go down because we had a lot of students that would sign up for it, but maybe only show up one day a week or just a couple times during the whole entire session because it was free. And then that also made it a little bit more difficult for it to really truly stay academic focused in those small cohorts of students. So we're going to shoot for having only 10 to 12 students grouped together. And it's going to be, so if parents are looking for something to do this summer, but more academically focused versus some of our recreation programming, this will be a good option to do that. And then we expect, while the enrollment will drop, our attendance is probably going to significantly increase because it won't be like a passive registration. It'll probably be a little bit more of a commitment to stay in that program, which will help it academically a little bit. And then for students that don't join us over the summer, or they choose to do something else, or they're not around, they're off doing something more exciting. I shouldn't have said that. Then probably nothing's more exciting than learning over the summer. But if they are away, then we'll certainly fold them into, because we go through that assessment cycle very early in the fall, and then we'll be identifying students that if there's a summer lag or if there's any other concerning data, we'll be able to help structure that and fold it right into our regular programming during the school year. But I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but this year will probably be real telling of what it will look like for the next few summers going forward with this new structure.
Okay.
All right. Anything further on that? All right.
Mr. Abel.
Thank you, and my apologies for coming in a little late. We had our committee meeting on the Strategic Planning Committee, and the majority of the meeting was devoted to meeting with Jacqueline Burde of Galapagos Marketing. If you recall from the last study session, we mentioned that in our first committee meeting, Superintendent West and the administration had kind of proactively identified Galapagos as a potential facilitator for a portion, kind of upfront portion of our strategic planning process. Had not yet seen their proposal. I think it was shared right before the last meeting, but thank you for doing that. We actually met with Jacqueline Burde, who's the representative of Galapagos Marketing, at the committee meeting, and she walked us through kind of what Galapagos brings to the table, and we had a kind of discussion about the deliverables that they were offering and kind of how that would interact and connect with the greater strategic planning process that we've been talking about. We had several questions and some concerns about the process in general, and such that we decided ultimately to bring this back to the full study session as opposed to making any decisions on committee. Specifically on my side, looking at Galapagos and what they offer, they seem like a kind of an excellent provider of branding, marketing, taglines, kind of elements to really kind of capture on an analytical basis kind of what a school district offers to the community in addition to kind of why people come and why people leave. My concern with utilizing them in connection with the strategic planning process was kind of the deliverables we were asking from them went beyond tagline and marketing. It also included looking at mission, vision, and why statements, which to me are kind of intrinsically connected with the greater strategic planning process. And I wanted to get a feel of how what they're bringing to the table in terms of deliverables then falls with kind of what we're looking for in the greater strategic planning process through the RFP that we're going to be putting together. And I wasn't sure kind of the connection there. Based on our discussion, my understanding is that Galapagos was going to bring, in addition to tagline and why statements, these vision and mission statements, and they were going to do an analytical exercise to get there, including surveys and other analytical techniques. And my concern was I was afraid, based on kind of the way I've traditionally seen strategic planning done, that by bifurcating the two things, we're kind of ignoring the crucial connectedness of mission and vision with greater strategic planning. So I wanted to be able to see kind of how they all flowed together from mission and vision with Galapagos to the overall RFP to make sure that we're not losing something in that bifurcation. Based on what they presented, I think they're excellent with taglines, marketing. I think we could definitely utilize them there, but I was afraid of setting up a process that would create issues with our overall strategic planning down the road. And that was really my primary concern. Secondarily, I didn't see really a lot of evidence that they did work in strategic planning as opposed to branding and marketing, which they're excellent at from what I've seen. And so I was concerned that what they might be doing might be, again, disconnected from what we might be seeing in the greater RFP process. But I did like them. They came highly recommended, I believe, from various sources to Superintendent West and Assistant Superintendent Bidlack. And I just thought that given the importance of the strategic planning process, it made sense not to make any kind of preliminary decisions at the table there, even though their cost is not de minimis, but at the level where I don't think we need board approval for it, and the superintendent could proceed. But worthwhile coming to the table. And Trustee Southward also, not to speak for her, but I believe you had a concern with the number of, that Galapagos was the only kind of bid put forward and the only entity we were looking at for that portion of the process, if I accurately reflected that.
So what's the next step? So it's either we go with them for the tagline portion, the mission and vision, and then we put out an RFP for goals. That's sort of A. And what's B? What's option B?
So I think that if we utilize them, I'd prefer to utilize them just for tagline and marketing, and not for the strategic planning process. To the extent that they have value there, I have no issue with it. But my concern would be if we utilize them for the first part of the strategic planning process, working on mission and vision, go through survey process, meeting, et cetera, we run the risk of, one, kind of upfronting a portion of the strategic plan that then might not mesh with what we are doing on the RFP side, and two, potentially creating survey exhaustion and meeting exhaustion if we're asking our community and our staff to look at the same things through different lenses, through the RFP and through Galapagos, and three, front-running a portion of the strategic plan in advance of kind of looking at what is going to be done on the rest of the RFP. My suggestion would be we identify the entire strategic planning process, figure out what we want in the RFP, and then figure out if Galapagos supports that or goes in a different direction. I think it's important to understand the entire process, at least from an RFP perspective, what we want to achieve, and then figure out how we accomplish it.
So is the second part, and so the second part is the goals to support the mission and vision. So you're suggesting mission, vision, goals all wrapped up into one. If this firm can support that's fine. If not, then we should go out and try to find a firm to support all three as opposed to bifurcating.
Yeah, I think the process of identifying mission, vision, and goals is typically wrapped up in a similar exercise. And so we want to understand how we're going to get to all those three things before bifurcating or branching a piece off. But I do like them for marketing, branding, and to the extent that we have a need to do that to generate excitement, as Superintendent West was suggesting, because I think it does generate a lot of excitement. There's value to that as long as we're not calling it the strategic plan, because I know some of my constituents were always nervous about what happened last go-round, where we kind of had a disconnection between the strategic planning and the mission and vision, which then led to almost like a district improvement plan.
Which I was a part of, and I think we wrapped it all into one, and that didn't seem to work. I mean, in fairness, right? It was. So is your recommendation, I just want to hear, is your recommendation is to use them for mission and vision, or you're saying no?
I'm saying I think they'd be great for tagline and potentially why statements, marketing related, brand related, but not for mission and vision.
So,
You're going to break it down?
yeah, I can break it down if there's.
For me, I've never been a part of this before. Can you break it down as if you're explaining it to a first grader at?
Yeah.
Because I'm honest. Yeah.
I can.
I'm a fourth grader. I'm going to explain things to first graders.
I can attest. So, first of all, Trustee Abel's done a nice job succinctly, I think, characterizing the discussion that we have. It would be administration's goal to bifurcate the two processes, being mission, vision, tagline, why statement, generating excitement, rolling that out for the 25-26 school year, and then so we have, why are we here? What are we doing? What is our tagline? What is our mission? What is our vision as a school district?
Okay.
And then going into, so that's not strategic planning from my lens. Okay, there's some components in it, but it is not. It's not the entire process. So we would bifurcate the two processes, get our mission, vision, why statement, tagline, and then utilize that to motivate our strategic plan, which will be how we're going to live into who we decided we are. So you have the who, the how, the what, and the why, all wrapped up into it. Galapagos, I would agree, albeit they may have the abilities to do an entire strategic planning process. I don't think they sold themselves as that. They are a marketing firm by nature. They came recommended through the Future Learning Council, as I've communicated on a couple of occasions, and we think that their services, based on the recommendations we've received and the conversations we had, would lend well into a shorter process of getting us a new mission, vision, why statement. Then we would issue an RFP to get a facilitator to lead us through about a 12-month strategic planning process that will be more visionary in nature, with specific goals of how we're going to accomplish who we want to be over a duration that we choose. So
if I envision it, it's like the first part is that you're proposing is they get in a room and we throw all the ideas on the whiteboard. They take the whiteboard and they market it and they bundle it up into taglines of who we are, and then the how of how we execute on that Is secondary
in a process. Now, I would not debate the fact that a strategic planning process can encompass all of that in one process. We could deliver an RFP or issue an RFP that had that deliverable. We certainly could. If we issue an RFP for strategic planning process, we would not issue it with the deliverable that they're going to put they're required to put a mission, vision, value, tagline statements together, because we would have that. The deliverable would be running through a comprehensive collaborative community process and setting measurable goals to accomplish who it is we want to become over a duration, again, of how long we decide is appropriate.
And my understanding can be different than that if you've been through it a lot. My understanding, and that's how we did it last time, and my understanding and some of the workshops I've been is you create the mission, vision.
They need you to hit the...
You create the mission, vision, and then from there, as long as everyone is happy with the mission, vision, then you create the goals and everything for that mission and vision. So I'm just trying to understand how the goals gets done in conjunction. I think you do the mission, vision, and then the goals support the mission, vision. So I personally see it as bifurcated processes.
Carolyn, what about you? I know you've been a part of this before.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment that I went through it at U of M Dearborn just recently when a new dean started, who's pretty much new leadership. So he went through the process of doing the mission, vision, and values process, and in that process you include all the faculty first, which is like 60 people, and you do a board for like smaller teams, and you come up with wordsmithing and coming up why you're there and what the purpose is of your work. So just kind of like what you're saying, Megan, is like adding some words in little groups and combining them to make it all, so everyone can collaborate and get behind a statement of some sort. But then you also bring in some of the key stakeholders. So some board members did join the faculty and the staff also did the same process. But I think it's good to bring everyone on board, because once everyone collaborates and gets behind some of those wordsmithing. I mean, it's kind of wordsmithing marketing in a way. A lot of it is marketing, because you're marketing what the purpose of your organization is to the outside world. So I think having a marketing firm is very valuable. I don't know where I was going with that thought process, but there you go.
You're saying you saw it as a two-step?
Yeah, it was a two-step process. First it was the mission, vision, and values, and then the next step was how do you get to those values and vision with a strategic plan, and how do you get the goals that align with that to get to that peak vision that you're trying to achieve, whatever that is.
Yeah, and my concern really is related to the concept that the strategic plan is a marketing goal. I don't think it should be. I think
it depends on how you're interpreting the word marketing.
It's not about selling us. It's about figuring out who we are, where we want to be, and the process of coming up with the strategic plan, bifurcating it up front and having an entity that is primarily focused on marketing, drive mission and vision, and then explain to the community we utilize that to then kind of put together the goals and strategic plan generally, tends to suggest to the community that this is a marketing effort as opposed to something else.
I disagree. I think that the drivers are the stakeholders, and they're the ones who listen to the stakeholders and package it up in a way. I just see it differently. I'm not looking at the word marketing as like sell our brand, make it flashy. It's listen to the stakeholders and phrase it all in a way that is not our expertise to phrase it that way.
And I agree, and that's why I think we have a strategic plan that is more all-encompassing than this bifurcated approach with the entity that's focused on marketing. Because just optics, you have a marketing firm come up with the essential elements of your strategic plan, it feels like marketing.
I guess that's the precise thing I see differently. I don't see it that they're coming up with the plan. I see it that we're coming up with the plan, the stakeholders, the community, the educators, and they're just helping us package it.
And they are. The deliverable is for them to facilitate the process and help us get an end product on the collaboration. So I would say that that's their deliverable. It's not to come up with what our plan is, but.
Trustee Southworth.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think the part for me in whether it's bifurcated or however we do the process, I think in the session, I was expecting to at least see an example that would lead us to where our outcomes were supposed to have been. And so I think if that would have been something that I could have saw as a deliverable, the outcome being mission, vision, goals, but it was really all about marketing. The entire presentation did not lend me to a lens that would say that this organization would, at the end of the day, pull in data and present to us the nature of our organization through a mission and a vision, and whatever the case may be. I did not receive that from the presentation that I watched. And I think not having anything to compare that with, whether it's a marketing firm or an education firm, I don't think that really matters. If they're experts in that area, I wish I could have saw that be presented in the presentation that I experienced.
Did they give, West, or for the committee, did they give like examples, school district X, Y, this is what we came up with? I'm just saying, did they have examples of what they've done in the past?
They are in two major sectors, one being the financial sector and two being education. They do serve as more of a communication style marketing firm for other school districts in which they have samples that they provided. We would be somewhat of a unique customer to them given the scope of work, but I do feel, given the conversations we've had with them, that they would be able to deliver on that project. What we're asking them to do is to bring together stakeholder groups, survey them, analyze the data, bring it back to us, and work with us through that collaborative process to come up with those things. So was there a specific mission, vision? I believe they did not share that with us. They probably have that in the financial sector, but they did share some work product from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah, getting to Michelle's point, right?
Yeah.
I'm assuming in your committee they would have presented saying we were on, maybe let's just example, school district Y.
Yeah,
we surveyed 70 people, whatever we started out here, we ended up here, and now this is their great mission, vision Y. So do they have that, at least to share with us, to show that they've actually done it successfully?
Some of the things that we looked at, and one of the reasons why this particular firm is recommended is because what makes them unique as opposed to partnering with like a someone who is more grounded in educational research, which you would very much rely on the how and what we're going to do, the goals and the strategies. Their tools around analytics and to be able to survey and interact with multiple stakeholders throughout the district and how they would do that and put that together in a very detailed way. And then they also do competitive set analysis. So they will also study, particularly what's unique about us is that we sit in a very large private school sector, and so they will also put together competitive sets for us and then bring that data back in a way to interpret, how do we start forming more of like a North Star, around that large language. Yeah, just around those large language pieces, and then use that as a platform to jump off, because those who will respond to the RFP are probably going to be, or what we'll probably be attracted to, are those who are very much rooted and grounded in the how and what to do next as a research entity, but maybe don't have the same analytical tools. And we experienced that from the last strategic planning process, where that was more of a passive way of doing that. But not really an analytical way of how that language got crafted of, this is what your community is saying they value. This is how different entities within your community see your school district, and using all of that to put that together. And I'm certainly not suggesting that there's a wrong path through strategic planning. There are multiple paths. But with the time that we have available this school year, it seems like we would be able to carve out a few of these chunks and put us in a good position to launch off next school year.
But again, you've said a lot of things that they claim to do, but leveraging what Michelle said, to my point, give me an example of what they've done.
They do.
Yeah.
They have some, and I think we shared the website with you. They have their process outlined of what they do. They have some work samples of what they do. It may not be specifically what we're asking them to do, but it hints at the same process and deliverable.
When I'm thinking about this, and I'm in this room, I'm thinking about it as a board member with my board member cap on. And I'm thinking more about the next step, which is developing the goals that we're going to be having metrics on and analyzing to see how well we're doing, and ensuring that every time we move forward, we're going back to the strategic plan and making sure everything else beneath that kind of coalesces up. But when I look at it outside of a board member perspective, and I think of it as a parent, I agree more with this approach of splitting it, because at the end of the day, it's not again, as a board member, it's not my school district. As a parent, it's their school district. And that way of getting everybody together, which is what it sounds like this firm would do, is be able to put together those situations where the community can speak, where they can have all of that data brought together to be able to derive, what do you guys want to, like, what do you envision in the next 15 years? What does Bloomfield Hills Schools look like? What's in our DNA? What do we do better than everybody else? Like, what makes us who we are? And I think that's what their job is going to be. The next phase of that will be then, okay, this is who we are. How do we get there? To me, and I have never, I'm not going to deny it, I've never done it for a school district, but I've done it, in a business setting, and we have done it that way, more of where we will split it up, work with our stakeholders, whether it's, the board of directors, whether it's the staff, whoever we need to talk to. Who is this company? What's going to make us better than everybody else? What's going to, launch us into the future? And then we put together the next piece, which is really those roadmaps of getting us there 5, 10 years, and then every single year we're going to have annual roadmaps as well. So to me, it makes more sense from that perspective. I get it. We don't want to frame this as a marketing company is making our strategic plan, and I'm cautiously observing that from that perspective as well, but it doesn't come off that way to me just from how I've done it from a business perspective, and so I'm okay with it. I would like to see examples if they have things that will illustrate, here's what we could do. It'd make me feel more confident, but I'm okay with that potential setup. Just my personal opinion.
Lindsay?
It makes sense to me to have it split up in two pieces, and I think, hearing about how the marketing firm would approach it sounds like, a unique way to bring a different perspective to it, bring a lot of data to it, and bring everybody into the discussion. I like that aspect of it. My hesitation is around, like, how do they work together? Like, if whoever, applies for the RFP, are they going to be okay taking something another firm did? Or is that something that most of these companies would usually do themselves, in-house, that then they're going to potentially conflict with whatever we come up with? Or will we have, will we be able to?
I can tell you, of the firms that would be excited about the RFP process for the strategic planning piece, I think, at least, and Todd, you can tell me what you think their characterization, they would be much more excited to just focus on the goals and the how we get to who we are. We've met with 4 of them, I think, separately, and having that bifurcated process would align with the work that would excite them most. I think they would also, though, in transparent, would be positioned to do both as well.
From a really, this is going to sound really basic, but Tarek, this flashed into my head when you were saying, trying to put yourself in that aside, the mind of a parent. getting engagement from our community is very difficult. It's very difficult. And so if there's a little bit of flash to it, which I'm hearing is maybe your concern, is it's more flash, less substance. Maybe that's what I'm hearing? No?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to continue with this, but sorry, I got that wrong. You can correct me. But I do have a concern that we can get all the substance right, but if the delivery, it's just hard to get people to engage. I mean, no offense, Superintendent West, we ask the community for a lot of engagement. There's a lot of people who care, but getting people to respond to surveys and do things, I was disappointed. Felt like the feedback that we got was really great, but it was not voluminous. And I think the goal here would be to have someone who has the ability to have both. To your point, the differentiator, what I heard from you, is really the data analytics and the way that they can utilize that and all the uniqueness of our district and how they can tap into that and then report back to us. If they can do that and they can bundle it up in a way that we know we're going to get the engagement and the response that we need, then I think it's more effective.
So on that note, and kind of taking a step back on bifurcation, my thought isn't that you kind of bifurcate completely mission and vision from the rest of the strategic plan. My concern was we don't have the complete process in mind before we're bifurcating off a piece. So if we've identified what the entire strategic planning process is going to look like and how what Galapagos brings to the table then integrates with what the people we're asking the RFP to do does, I'd be more comfortable. But my concern is, from a process standpoint, what Galapagos does is they go out, they talk to stakeholders, they might talk to parent groups, but if we then go out with the RFP and do the same thing, we're engaging in survey exhaustion, and we're exhausting those community members who are most kind of involved in the process. And I speak to this as a community member who's been through several strategic planning exercises with this district where there's been survey exhaustion. Like, I've come to the table far too many times as a parent talking about the same thing because it feels like there's entity A and entity B aren't necessarily talking and integrated with each other.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so my concern is not that we deal with mission and vision first and then the goals to get there. That is the process that I've seen everywhere. My concern is we're breaking that out and assigning that role to someone without knowing how it's going to be used and without getting that kind of buy-in from, on the RFP side, whoever is going to be taking that initial work and integrating into the rest. So I'd prefer to have an entity that does all of it, or get buy-in on the RFP that whoever's doing that says, yeah, what Galapagos brings to the table is exactly what we need. Either one of those things would satisfy my concerns.
So the process that we would outline is to get Galapagos on board immediately, begin that process, which would have a duration of between now and probably August, when we would hope to have a finished deliverable product that we would be delivering to the community and staff on opening day in August. Parallel, we would be issuing the RFP, I think I outlined it, in April, and getting that process going and selected so those folks are on board by July. So there would be some overlap in which, and depending on how we write and issue the RFP, there would be some overlap in those services and some communication required and coordination required in, okay, we're going to take this product in a month that you're going to deliver Galapagos, and then we're outlining I think it's a 12-month process at least, where, because we have talked quite a bit about survey fatigue. We want to be very thorough in our process, very deliberate, and it's going to take stakeholder group meetings. It's going to take surveys, certainly. There's going to be several modes in which we get and collect information from stakeholders. So our hope is that we get in quickly here, get some survey data about what our district and stakeholders want, and then we're not really coming back to them until we really develop the process in late fall and have community in the fall, winter, spring before we deliver what our strategic planning would be. So, go ahead.
And we, as part of the RFP, right, build in there, if we decide as a board, whether it's tonight or just give you the directive to use this firm, put in there that as one of the criteria, they have to make sure that they work with this firm or,
Yeah.
or other firms that they, similar and leverage is, whatever is going to satisfy that we're not duplicating processes.
Yes.
And, they're going to be hand in hand. I'm assuming that can be part of the RFP.
Yes, my
We can
goal
build
would
that
be
in.
to get an RFP for the facilitation of the strategic plan to the board for review. So we can include that as a requirement of the RFP.
Thank you for that. I think not to belabor the point that was made about the process outline, I know we have an RFP timeline. I think it is important for us to have an actual process flow so we can understand what steps in the process we are kind of trying to aim to get towards. So I think, at least for me, it would work for me to understand what the overall goals would be in timeline-wise, not just for the RFP. So if we're going to go this route with using a separate firm for separate things.
So part of that will be a deliverable in the RFP, though, for the facilitation firm to give us the deliverables as it relates to their process over the next 12 months. But I think I understand what you want.
Don't we typically tell them what our timeline is?
Our deliverable, yes. We're issuing here, we want you to start in July, and our deliverable date is next June. You're going to tell us how we're going to get from point A to point B. So that would be part of that. But in the short term, I think I understand what you want, a process flow that would show or outline what that looks like from now until then. And then the coordination efforts, Paul, that you mentioned is something that we can.
When are you planning on putting out that? When would you put that RFP out?
Well, so here's the challenge. That's why we needed to have this conversation, and we need to land on something. First of all, I don't think there's a right or wrong. I think there's a strong opinions of how this should happen. But if we're going to deliver by August, we need to get the mission, vision, tagline, and that going now. If we're going to combine efforts and look for one firm, then we can take our time, deliver the RFP, and then stretch it out on the back end to say this is going to be a 12 or 18-month process. You know where I stand on it. But it's going to be 12 to 16 months regardless of how we do it. But I'd like to get started with Galapagos.
You want us, even though to Jason's point, we don't necessarily have to, based on a cost, but it is our overall process.
Yes.
Do you want us to indirectly kind of, even though not vote, but kind of go around and make sure we're all comfortable that you can move forward? Is that the ask tonight?
Yeah. As we mentioned in the communication, yes, we need to develop a path forward. We have to make sure that our governance body is on board with process because we don't want to stumble out of the gates, right? We need to be steadfast in our efforts as a governance team to lead this process, and I don't want to get caught up out of the gates here. So yes, our goal is to say, okay, what process are we going to use? And I do not believe we need board authority or approval to move forward with Galapagos if that's what we want to, but I'm not moving forward with Galapagos if we don't have support.
Do we want to go around, Megan?
I'll start. I support it. Paul?
I support it as long as within the RFP, we make the connection.
The coordination.
Yeah, I'm against it. I think we need the entire process mapped to then figure out if Galapagos is the right entity to start the process. I just don't want to be in a position where we start with someone and then we have someone else who tosses out the work and forces our community to do the same thing twice.
Okay.
I support it. One thing, back to Paul's point about coordination, I don't know if we have anything, hopefully we do, in the Galapagos side of things that they, share data, whatever, all the things that we're getting from them, that there's, that we have access to that when they're gone and the next company's in.
I support it. I think that they're capable of wordsmithing and doing some of the work that that coming together as a group. And it's not like it's educational in nature. It's a lot of marketing. Marketing is very broad, though. Marketing could mean engaging community. It could mean, showing interest in something. Breaking into the noise. There's so much going on out in the community that this is a good process. So I support it.
Oh, that's going to turn it
I was
off.
going to turn it off. Well, you're next.
I do have reservations, but I support the fact that I think Todd and Rick can definitely, lead this particular process forward. But I do have reservations for the company that we're using, not having a chance to see other entities. So I support with reservation. I would love to have seen others.
I support it with the caveat that others have mentioned, that we somehow build it in, that there needs to be, and even if it's more dollars, scope it in so that there is some sort of a handoff and a connection made between Galapagos and whomever is going to come in and do the rest of the work, to kind of let them sync up, say, hey, this is what we've got, not just hand off materials, but really dig in and make sure they see it from their perspective. I think that'd be helpful, but otherwise I support it.
So I think the collective feedback I'm hearing, Jason, I think if you felt like there was some assurance from the RFP, when we dictate to them the terms of what we're seeking, that we make it clear, this is not for you to go in and duplicate what we've already done. This is for you to take the work that we've done and work with that. We have distinct reservations about survey fatigue, engaging people too many times. Like, you're going to take the work that is handed over to you, and that's what you're going to use as the basis for, yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually slightly different than that. I'm worried about survey fatigue and utilizing the same process twice. I'm uncomfortable with the idea that Galapagos, which is an entity that has not done the mission vision element of a strategic plan before, is now going to be dictating to an entity that only does strategic planning what the mission and vision should be, because I think they're inextricably combined. Even though you could front load one and not the other, I think telling, before we have the RFP, telling the entity you have to accept their mission and vision, or what comes from that initial analysis as mission and vision, is problematic. But again, I think we've all spoken.
For the education experts in the room who haven't spoken yet, are there any opinions from your perspective and what you've observed?
And they will continue not to speak.
This is a room where we encourage diverse thoughts and opinions, and all right, good talk.
Yeah. So my suggestion ultimately would be, don't make that part of the RFP. Don't make that part of what we are requiring them to do, but take their advice and listen to what they say, because ultimately they might have a different approach. They might say what Galapagos did was wrong, in which case we want to be able to listen to them because they're the experts.
All right.
I was asked, so I've been this is the first I'm hearing about all this process, and I've been doing a little bit of searching around what districts have used Galapagos, and from first glance, I think there is potential there, and I think ultimately whoever you all bring on to do the strategic plan itself is going to do what you're asking it to do. So, they're going to take what work we've already created, and they're going to adapt to what we need. So I understand where Trustee Apel is coming from in terms of his reservation, and maybe there being a perception of we're taking the work of a marketing firm and creating a more strategic educational plan out of it. But I do feel confident that the firm that would take over or get handed off the previous work would be able to continue and put together a process.
What district?
I was looking at, there's a bunch that they've worked with. Kanawha Hills was one that has used them quite a bit.
That's fine, okay. You don't have to go through it. I guess I could Google it myself.
Yeah.
They've absolutely done this work for other districts. We did, and I was hesitant around some tagline I was hesitant around some branding and tagline conversations when we first started this process also, because I feel so strongly that our branding is really a leader in Oakland County and in Michigan. I maintain that, and we had some really hard conversations with Galapagos around that work to get us to the point where we, as a cabinet team, felt pretty unanimously that this was a strong step forward for us. And I do think that this work will inform and lead the next phase that is really like a 12-month and maybe even 18-month process. But we have had the ability to have those conversations over the last couple of months, and this is the first time that we're having this conversation together. But they have done some good work with some other districts.
Thank you. I appreciate you all speaking up. We're on time crunch here.
Yep, I think this certainly provides clarity. My goal will be now to synthesize some of these notes into leading this process forward. I hear fairly good support to bring Galapagos on and move forward. My next goal will be to outline the RFP for the strategic planning process. Moving forward, we'll start that in the strategic plan. All of you will have the opportunity to look at, review, and provide notes to the RFP for the strategic planning process to assuage any of the concerns that have been waged here tonight. And we will move forward in that manner.
All right.
Does that
Great.
sound good?
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Moving on to Section 3, the closed session. We need a motion.
Yeah. So before we do the motion, I think the person who's being reviewed has to request it in closed session per the statute.
I request this.
That's why he's going to read it.
There we go. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Well, I will request that we go into closed session for the purposes of reviewing my mid-year progress report.
Okay, so I move the Board of Education convene a closed session in accordance with MCL 15268, Section 8A, to discuss the evaluation of the superintendent.
Second,
Second.
I'm going to do roll call vote. Paul? Jason?
Yes.
Lindsay? Carolyn? Michelle?
Yes.
Tara?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Motion passes 7-0. We'll go to closed session. Thank you. Calling to order the regular meeting of the Bloomfield Hills School Board of Education. Trustee Noble, will you please take attendance?
Everyone's in attendance.
Thank you. Let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
I pledge
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you for that. Moving into Section 5 of the agenda, special recognition. Section A, Celebrating Success, Michigan School Band and Orchestra Association, All State Ensembles. This will be presented by Kendra Peterson for grades 5 through 12 Performing Arts Department lead.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. It's an honor to be here this evening. March happens to also be Music in Our Schools Month, so it's perfect timing for us to be recognizing these students. Today we're celebrating their achievement of being selected for the Michigan School Band and Orchestra Association All-State Ensembles. The All-State program was established in 2005-2006 school year, and an average of 2,500 students audition for spots that where 400 students are only selected for 5 ensembles. There is a middle school string orchestra, a middle school band, a high school full orchestra, a high school band, and a high school jazz ensemble. The students are selected from recorded auditions. They must prepare an announced etude, a series of scales, and even sight read an etude during the audition process. Each audition is submitted only by an identification number, no reference to the student or the school, completely blind, and they're evaluated by an adjudicator and then placed in an order. The required number of instruments are then selected to fill each section of the ensembles, and some students are also selected as alternates named honorable mentions. In January, the students selected to perform in these ensembles rehearsed for 2.5 days with nationally recognized conductors. A concert was then held on the Saturday of the Michigan Music Conference in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'd now like to announce and bring up each student who was selected, and we're going to be handing them certificates, and we'll take some pictures up here. So we'll start with our all-state ensemble members, and the first one is BHHS student Aiden Sun, class of 2025, violin, and was selected for the orchestra. Okay, great. And our next student is BHS student Derek Hahn, class of 2027, cello, orchestra. Next is BHS student Jinglu Jiang, class of 2025, viola and orchestra. Then South Hills Middle School student Grace Barakovich, 8th grade, bass clarinet, middle school band. And I'll just note that she's down with the DSO at a middle school honor band today, so that's why she's not here, doing more. South Hills Middle School student Zoe Kuiper, 8th grade, string bass, middle school orchestra. South Hills Middle School student Nora Grans, 8th grade viola, middle school orchestra. And our honorable mentions for the 2025 Michigan School Band and Orchestra All-State Ensembles are BHHS student Evan Smith, class of 2027, clarinet, concert band. BHHS student Casey Noss, class of 2026, trumpet, jazz band. And South Hills Middle School student Finley Coe, 7th grade, flute, middle school band. Congratulations to all of our music students and their incredible accomplishments today. All right, congratulations to those students. Moving on to section 5B of the agenda. This is the celebration of success of our recipients of the Teacher of the Year Award. Our presenters for this will be Michelle Vibke-Lang. She's the principal at Way Elementary School. Jason Rubel is the principal at North Hills Middle School. And Dan Hartley, our high school principal. Yes, please.
I'll go first. All right. Good evening, Board of Education and Cabinet members. Thank you for this opportunity to recognize such extraordinary educators. I would like to introduce Cindy Zervos, Way Elementary Media Specialist, and congratulate her as this year's Elementary Teacher of the Year. Cindy is keen, give her a round of applause, go ahead. As she's making her way up here, Cindy is keenly aware that teaching is not just a profession, it's a calling. It's about shaping minds, inspiring hearts, and leaving a lasting impact on every student who walks through our doors. It's about believing as you do so deeply that education changes lives. Cindy's creativity, passion, and relentless dedication have touched so many lives, our students, staff, families, and the entire Way community. Whether it's through one school, one book that has grown into one district, one book, Star Books, the Cozy Resort with books and hot cocoa, reading donuts, or the fourth grade kindness crew, she has turned simple ideas into unforgettable experiences that inspire and uplift all of us. Cindy has shown over and over how a simple idea can be turned into something grand. That's the magic of her leadership. Cindy, you dream big, you work hard, and you are never afraid to try something new, especially when it means making a difference for our students, our staff, or our community. Our students know they can always count on Mrs. Zervos to help them find the perfect book, whether it's a favorite author, a beloved genre, or something entirely new. And if she can't find it, we know she will go above and beyond to make it happen, even if it means using her own resources. Her dedication has fostered a love of reading in so many young minds. Cindy, the support you provide to our staff is truly commendable. When a call for help, which is often, goes out due to staffing shortages or whatever it may be, you never hesitate to step up. You embody the true spirit of a servant leader, always putting the needs of others first. On behalf of the Way staff, students, community, and the entire Bloomfield Hills School District, we are beyond thrilled to celebrate you as the 2024-2025 Teacher of the Year. This honor is so well-deserved, and we cannot wait to see what you continue to accomplish. Congratulations to you, Cindy, and thank you for being an incredible educator and leader that you are. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Ed and our audience here this evening. I'd like Beth Mueller to come forward, our Middle School Teacher of the Year recipient. Let's give her a round of applause. I have the great fortune of sharing a few words, and being that sometimes my own words struggle a bit, I have some wonderful words from colleagues and parents and even some students here. So one of Beth's colleagues wrote, "Beth is a trusted member of the teaching staff, and parents respect her. She reaches out to families when she feels something may be going on with a student, so she is sure to get the whole picture." Another staff member who's also here tonight. What I admire is Beth's approach to this role. Her emphasis has always been on assuming positive intent, face-to-face communication, and seeking a resolution instead of a reaction. Teachers and admin alike trust and respect her. Beth has consistently created small moments and events in school that create community and a sense of belonging. A parent and a colleague of ours, a former principal, Rob Dureka, wrote, "It has been over 7 years since my son was in Ms. Mueller's classroom, but to this day, he credits her as the teacher who had the greatest impact on his life. Today, he is working in IT, and our family owns a tremendous debt of gratitude to Beth Mueller for being such an integral part of his journey." And then a couple students wrote, "Ms. Mueller always made us feel welcome. We felt safe. She would encourage us not to get our work, what am I saying? You are better than me. You would encourage them to get our work done and help whenever needed. so that we didn't need to stress, like I am, I guess, at night. She not only cares about her job, she cares about our well-being. And another student wrote, "What I love most about Ms. Mueller is that she creates this warm, friendly atmosphere," and again, the same theme, "where everyone feels safe to express themselves. Whether you're having a tough day or need help with something academic, she makes sure you feel heard and supported." And so as you know, we think about all of our teachers, and we have so many great ones, it's nice on a night like tonight to honor somebody like Beth, who's made a difference with colleagues, with our parent community, with our students, most importantly. So thank you, Beth. Thank you. Congratulations. Okay, sure.
All right, good evening, everybody. It's so nice to see. I think this is the biggest turnout I've seen at a board meeting, and for such a wonderful cause tonight, recognizing some of our great teachers. So without further ado, it's my privilege to bring up to the stage Ms. Rachel Matz. So Rachel does, just about anything and everything for our high school, teaching newspaper, English language arts. She's one of our student leadership advisors, so she helps to coordinate homecoming and prom and everything goes with that. We have a leadership class where she takes students to conference. She even presented on the impact of artificial intelligence at a parent workshop that we had over the weekend. Just a tremendous asset to the high school and really a fierce advocate for the Bloomfield Hills Schools community. What I would like to do is just read a short excerpt from her nomination so that we give Ms. Matz her due. So, Rachel is a forward-thinking educator who leverages technology to create engaging and meaningful learning experiences for her students. She has seamlessly integrated AI into her lessons, teaching students how to use it responsibly while enhancing their critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Beyond her innovative approach, Ms. Matz is deeply committed to meeting the individual needs of every student, adapting her teaching strategies to help them succeed in whatever way that she can. Her classroom is a space where students feel valued, heard, and empowered to take ownership of their learning. Throughout her dedication and creativity, Ms. Matz is truly shaping the future of education at Bloomfield Hills High School. Beyond the classroom, as I said, Rachel is a teacher leader. She leads staff development. She participates in community events and is a strong advocate for our school and district. For those of us that had the privilege to travel to the classroom to give Rachel her award, it was perfect timing. We actually had a double leadership class, so there were about 60 students in the room to be able to share in the moment and the joy. And it was just so special to see how much those students cared about you and how much you cared for them. It really was a testament to why you're receiving this recognition tonight. So congratulations to Rachel Matz.
congratulations to our recipients of the Teacher of the Year Awards. It's really, really exciting and love hearing all those stories. So thank you for being here to celebrate with us. One more, celebrating success. Moving on to C, celebrating success, the Distinguished Service Award. This will be presented by Samer Al-Sayed Salamoon, IT Director, Catherine Hunt, Supervisor, and Tara Herzberg, PK Supervisor. What do you say?
Good evening. I am excited to recognize Alex Nordhorn. He's our systems architect here at the BHS IT department. Unfortunately, Alex did have a family event tonight, so he could not attend. But I do have a few words to share. For those of you that don't know Alex, he has been with the organization for an incredible 28 years. He has worked his way through every role in the IT department. And this has really made him a true expert in all things technology. A quick fun fact, 28 years ago, Alex was the first hire in the IT department as well. And he has been responsible for the success of every major project that we have done in the IT department. His expertise and dedication have been instrumental in keeping our systems running smoothly, enabling educators to teach and students to learn without any disruption. His willingness to teach and support others has fostered a collaborative environment within the IT department, where everyone is encouraged to learn and improve. Alex's leadership extends far beyond technical know-how. He's shown what it means to be patient, approachable, and always ready to help others succeed. Alex's hard work and unwavering commitment goes far beyond his daily responsibilities. He dedicates countless hours to ensuring that our technology functions seamlessly. His contributions are invaluable to the continued success of the district, and his legacy of mentorship and leadership will continue to influence the department for years to come. Thank you.
I have the pleasure of presenting Robin Thornbury. She is our Eastover Kid Zone Supervisor. As Robin just reminded me last week, she started off in our toddler room working just 3 hours a day, and now she works 40 hours a week in the preschool in the middle of the day, we're so lucky, and in our kid zone in both the morning and the afternoon. So she literally works from 6:45 a.m. till 6 o'clock p.m. every day. We give her a little bit of break for lunch, et cetera, in the middle. But we are so lucky to have Robin in our Kid Zone program. She's patient, kind, caring, dedicated, and fun. Who wouldn't want to be in her classroom? She's a phenomenal Lego builder, so who wouldn't want that expertise? She's there many times being the only face that anybody sees of a Bloomfield Hills Schools employee, because parents drop off at 7 o'clock in the morning, pick up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and maybe the custodian might be another person they might see along the way. She greets them with a huge smile on her face, a big open-armed hug, and creates a warm and entertaining, inviting, safe and secure environment for all of her students. She excels at finding the right activity for every kid. She captures the Lego, blocks, arts and craft project, and puts the masterpiece in a photo, which then makes them want to build something even bigger and better the next day. She supports her students in Kid Zone as well as sometimes in school or in other activities that they do, be it a sporting event. She also will go to plays that they're in, talent shows, etc. You won't be surprised seeing her, which ultimately led to why she ended up with this award, because she had gone to a game that a child was in, and they were so happy to see her there. On Saturday, for the parent workshop, she ran the child care program, and she texted me and said, "Oh my gosh, 2 of our former kids are helping me right now." They're now in high school. And she said, I'm so proud of them. One of them is just totally doing the whole thing, leading the way, telling everybody else what to do. But it's things like that that she still cares about what students are doing, and helped obviously show a great role model to copy along the way. She's worked for us for over 14 years. She uses her experience and kindly shares it with her other coworkers. She truly loves her job. She told me this last week. I really love my job, Wendy. We are lucky to have her in the district, and especially in our Kids Zone and preschool program. Nobody is more deserving of this honor, and I'm so glad that about time we recognize her. Congratulations to Robin Thornberry.
Hello, I am Catherine Hunt. I am the new supervisor this year for the Bloomfield Hills Deaf and Hard of Hearing program, and I have the pleasure to lift Chris Spike. Chris Spike is a remarkable speech and language pathologist whose passion, expertise, and commitment to the students in the Deaf and Hard of Hearing program have made an immeasurable difference in their lives. Chris has been in the district for 2 decades, and I've only been here about 6 months. So what I'd like to do is actually take the time to read a little bit from a colleague of Chris that I just received this afternoon, and her nomination as we move her forward for the Oakland Schools Service Board. So this evening we received from Julie Uniton, just bear with me, I'm gonna grab it from my phone here. I have known Chris for almost 20 years through my work with Oakland Schools. However, once I became the consultant covering the Bloomfield Hills Deaf and Hard of Hearing program, I've had the opportunity to work side by side with her in support of our mutual students, witnessing exemplary service to all. Chris is the first person in my almost 32 years at Oakland Schools who consistently is held with such high regard and praise throughout Oakland County. Never have I ever heard a disparaging word from a parent, director, supervisor, or teacher. Her reputation has stood the test of time, and she is spoken in the manner of the utmost respect and admiration. Chris's work ethic is stellar. She is a professional and has integrity and leads by example daily. She is diplomatic with both staff and families in presenting herself at meetings that represent the DHH program with distinction. I have been present as Chris has earned the respect of every supervisor and special education director in Bloomfield Hills over the years. And it is because of her collaboration, team player mentality, and honesty to do whatever it is to take to step up, regardless of what is asked of her. Chris is a master at leaning in, whether it is stepping into a classroom to help a person, taking on more than her role, being flexible enough to adapt to the ever-changing landscape in public education. Chris is loyal and someone that everyone can count on. Your leadership, your guidance, and your mentorship has onboarded me in the first 6 months, and I am so thankful for you on this journey. So thank you. And we are so proud to have you in the program and all of the students that you have touched here in our program for the last 20 plus years. So thank you, and we could not think of someone more deserving than you.
Pardon me? I don't think so. Please, yeah.
Paul's going to actually read the IDEA one.
Uh-huh.
He's going to read the full recommendation.
Okay.
You're going to get picked up for being the one. I'll be as quickly as possible.
All right. We had a quick recess there. It's always so fun to celebrate that section of the agenda. And then when everyone leaves, it's like, oh, that's a bummer. All right, so moving on. It's like, you don't want to watch the consent agenda? What? Okay, so moving on to section 6 of the agenda, public comment. Do we have any public comment this evening? No public comment. All right, moving on to section 7, our superintendent's report.
Yes, 4 updates for you. Just want to make sure that the public is aware that the BHS, or the Bloomfield Hills Schools print newspaper hit homes last week. Please check it out for the incredible things happening in our district and the upcoming events. March's Reading Month has been incredible. It is still underway throughout this rest of this week. One District, One Book at the elementary has been a huge success. They have taken the time to read Otter, which is a book about curiosity, resiliency, and love for adventure. So all 4 of our elementary schools have had the opportunity to go through this. I was honored to participate in the reading of it, and it's just been an incredible month. I know several people they've been guest readers throughout our organization, throughout our buildings, and it's a really powerful month to inspire people in the art of reading and just to continue to establish those habits. So real proud of that work. I will be at the Bloomfield Township Library on Thursday, March 20th, this Thursday at 4:30 p.m., where I'll be reading some stories about spring. And spring will have sprung, I hope, and there will be crafts there set up for families to do, so please consider coming out to the library Thursday evening. I do want to highlight an important event, and it's been alluded to a couple times tonight already, but we did host a parent camp, Raising Healthy Teenagers, How to Support Your Children in the Digital Age. That took place this past Saturday at the high school, where we had over 150 families participate or attend this event. Attendees heard from 2 dynamic guest speakers, Nicole Runyon, an author and psychotherapist specializing in parenting and renowned for her expertise in children and adolescent mental health, and Katie McPherson, experienced in school leadership, prevention, and organizational change with 25 years as a secondary school teacher, guidance counselor, and K-12 school administrator. Trustees Baker and Hill both got to experience both of those keynotes, and it was just fabulous. Following the keynote speakers, attendees selected from 6 different breakout sessions, just to highlight those for the public: Connecting to the I Generation, Stop the Tug of War, How to Put Tech in Its Place, the AI Conversation, Navigating the Digital Age, Keeping Kids Safe, and Being Intentional. It ended with the facilitated student panel, which was very powerful, hearing from our kids. I think there were about 8 students on stage, facilitated by one of our teachers, and had a robust conversations about their perspective on this important topic. And it was just a powerful day. I'd like to personally thank Dr. Hartley and his team for their leadership in organizing this incredible community event, and thank you to our sponsors as well. This was a whole community effort. Our sponsors: Bloomfield Youth Assistance, Birmingham Bloomfield Community Coalition, our Bloomfield Hills Schools PTOC, our BHS Foundation, and then most importantly, the Bloomfield Hills High School Student Leadership, all participated in this. We have an abundant amount of resources within our community to tackle this topic that has become very front and center, really, as the governor has published legislation that she would like to see passed regarding cell phones in schools. So a topic that's going to be front and center for, I think, quite some time. And I really believe that Bloomfield Hills is positioned well with the community resources, the community interest in having serious conversations about what healthy habits in the digital age means. So I look forward to continuing that, and with Dr. Hartley's leadership, continuing to engage. And other than that, I wish everybody in our community a joyful and refreshing spring break.
Thank you, Superintendent West. Moving on to Section 8 of the agenda, Board President's Report. I'll just continue your discussion about the event on Saturday. I was only able to make it to the keynote speakers. Trustee Baker is always the more diligent student, and I think she went to the whole thing. But from the section that I saw, looked like it was going to be a wonderful presentation, and I hope that we continue this conversation regularly in our district. It's eye-opening, it's top of mind, I think, for all families, and a healthy conversation to keep going. So thank you to everyone who facilitated it. It was important work that I hope we keep going. For this evening, Oh, thank you. Sorry about that. So tonight for the board, during our study session, we had a really good conversation about our strategic planning process. Got to hear every board member's feedback and have really good, healthy dialogue about how that's going to move forward, so we enjoyed that. Also, we went into closed session at Superintendent West's request to discuss an interim informal evaluation. The formal evaluation is scheduled for June 16th, 2025. Because of the nature of the closed session and the contents discussed there, I cannot comment on any specifics that came back, but it was a good dialogue between the board members and Superintendent West on his progress that he's made so far in our community. What I can share is a comment that was made to me recently by someone that I ran into in the community. It was not in closed session, so I can share it. But I ran into two administrators within our district, two people that I don't interact with frequently, but I do trust them that they would give me very honest feedback. And I said, what are you hearing about the feedback with Superintendent West? And they were absolutely sincere, and it was extremely positive feedback. They said this seems to be the consistent feedback amongst most administrators. The culture is very positive. And I thought one comment that was really unique and kind of funny, but I think most people can appreciate this with any leader. This person said, I like the fact that when he doesn't know something, he says it. He doesn't know, and he doesn't have to be the smartest person in the room. Which I think in this day and age is always a nice, refreshing compliment. I think that creates a relatability with the staff that they really, really like about Rick. They find him approachable, they find him unifying, and that's the feedback that I've heard from the community. But in terms of the board's feedback, we had great discussion tonight. We'll keep the discussion ongoing, and then again, do the formal evaluation in June. Other than that, the board sends well wishes to everybody celebrating spring break, and be safe. Our next meeting will be April 28th, 2025. Moving on, Section 9 of the agenda, we're going to skip over. That was supposed to be our board intern and student advisory committee report. We will move that to the April meeting. Our students were not available to give us the update this evening. Moving on to consent agenda. Trustee Noble, that's Section 10 of the agenda.
I move the Board of Education to approve the recommendations detailed in the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to Section 11, Board Business. Section A, request to approve purchase of staff devices. Samar Al-Sayed Suleiman, the Director of Information Technology.
Good evening. Any questions about the item that you guys are looking to approve tonight?
Just one, in terms of the staff devices, did you have the opportunity to discuss the proposed devices with the staff and get their buy-in on what we're going to be purchasing?
We did a similar upgrade last year at the high school, so we're really just kind of repeating the same thing for the other buildings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there a motion? Or further dialogue before making a motion? We can make it.
Move that the Board of Education to approve the purchase of staff devices in the amount of $488,130 to be paid from the 2020 Bond and Center Program Fund as presented.
Second.
Any further dialogue or discussion or questions?
Can you remind us, what do we do when we replace devices? What happens to the devices that we are no longer using?
If they have value, we sell them.
Okay.
If they don't, we recycle them.
Okay.
It just depends.
I figured as much, but.
Yeah. You'd be surprised after 5 years, they're not worth a whole lot.
They're not really worth anything.
I remember when I was at a school district, and we used to sell them to the staff first, but by the time the staff would get them, they're like, I don't think I want this, which is true. You don't probably want
We tried that once, and we'll never do it again.
Yeah, and it's a hassle then because you guys have to wipe it and ensure that
And then we
everything's-
become their IT support.
And then if there's
for
a problem,
home.
they reach out
Yep.
to you. Yeah, so.
Yep.
Yeah, nope, been there, done
Been
that.
there, done that.
Yeah.
Sounds like you've experienced.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Summer.
Thank you, Sammer.
Moving on to Section B, Resolution in Support of Full Permanent Funding of Individuals with Disabilities Act, the IDEA. Trustee Colin, I believe you have something.
Yeah, I'll read the resolution, and then someone can make a motion. So whereas public education is the cornerstone of our democracy, providing fundamental skills and opportunity to children across the United States, and whereas in the decade following the Great Recession, students across the U.S. lost nearly $600 billion from the state's disinvestment in their public schools, and whereas prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, both state and federal funding for public schools was already failing to meet the critical needs of students across the country. And whereas since the COVID-19 pandemic, students have needed additional academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs being met through targeted programming and additional personnel, enhanced professional development opportunities, new technology, as well as critical updates to school facilities. And whereas research has consistently shown that increased educational funding positively affects academic performance, increased graduation rates, and impacts future earnings. And whereas where Individuals and Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, was passed in 1975, the federal government committed to pay 40% of the average per pupil expenditure for special education to ensure that every child with a disability has access to a high-quality education. Whereas the financial pledge for IDEA has never met and is currently funded at approximately 10.7%, leaving a gap of billions of dollars needed for students. And whereas Bloomfield Hills Schools is proud to serve a student population that includes 16.4% of students with disabilities. And whereas where Bloomfield Hills Schools' cost to deliver the important services required under IDEA was not properly funded by the federal government, it requires us to reallocate money from other programs to make up for it. And whereas the federal underfunding of IDEA has negatively impacted the academic opportunities of all students for generations, not just those with disabilities. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Bloomfield Hills Schools as follows. The Bloomfield Hills Schools Board of Education calls on Congress to immediately pass the IDEA full funding Section 2217 H.R. 4519, which would create a 10-year mandatory path to fully fund IDEA, and the Bloomfield Hills School Board of Education calls on the state legislature to provide adequate, equitable, and sustainable funding increases to districts to mitigate the harm caused by decades of unfunded schools.
Yes.
That's it.
I thought you wanted to read this.
That's the resolution. Okay,
We'll read it for you.
I'll read the bottom. I hereby certify that the foregoing constitutes a true and complete copy of the resolution duly adopted by the Board of Education, Bloomfield Hills Schools, County of Michigan, at a regular meeting held on the 17th day of March, 2025, and that said meeting was conducted and public notice of said meetings was given pursuant to and full compliance of the Open Meetings Act, being Act 267, Public Acts of Michigan, 1976, and the minutes of said minutes were kept and will be made available as required by this Act.
Thank you.
And then the motion is, I move the Board of Education.
We'll make the motion for you.
Okay, that's fine.
Go ahead.
I move the Board of Education to adopt the resolution calling for full permanent funding of IDEA as presented.
Support. Support.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you for that. And if there's any other concerns, please speak now. Otherwise, we are adjourned.